Hello and welcome to the 80s Cinema Club. And I don't know what else to say because I'm not used to doing this anymore.
You don't usually do the
But
intro.
here we are. So today we're going to be covering My Beautiful Laundrette, filmed in 1985, and I'll hand over to Harry here for our quick
Oh, you really didn't like that, did you?
That felt really weird, that, I'll be honest. It wasn't bad, but you know.
Alfie, you can do the intro too. So as I said, we'll be covering My Beautiful Laundrette, which goes a little something like this. That sounds like I'm going to start singing. Omar, a Pakistani immigrant, lives in a dingy London flat with his alcoholic father. When he gets given a job of washing cars for his uncle Nasser, he takes every opportunity possible to progress and eventually become the manager of his own laundrette. To help with this new business, he hires an old friend named Johnny. The two have an intimate relationship which they try to hide from others as they grow the laundrette into a huge success. Omar must deal with racial backlash, and Johnny must figure out who he wants to be in 1980s British society.
Yeah,
that's it, really. I'm really sorry if I butchered the pronunciation of the uncle. I have no idea how to say his name. That's really bad, but
it's kind of hard to tell.
Sure. Back to that time again.
Yeah.
This time on My Beautiful Laundrette. Alfie, what did you like about it?
Well, I'm going to preface this with this. I found this film kind of weird to watch, honestly. There was general... I think the overarching story was kind of a bit weird, but the themes they were trying to cover through, showing the issues of immigrants trying to make a stand for themselves in British society, the whole idea throughout the film of Omar kind of feeling this, I don't know, duty to his family to become someone and constantly want to pursue the laundrette and make it into a better thing, with this whole idea that he needs to be someone in sight to make a mark, kind of coming from his uncle as well, who very much has the idea that the only way he can really live in Britain, being a land full of opportunities where it's laid bare, is to try and accumulate as much money and wealth as possible, as he says during the film at a couple of points.
Yeah, I really like the message. That's what it is. I like the message the film puts across. So it gives a lot of observations on Thatcher as well.
Yes.
Which I explained to Alfie why I think they love Thatcher so much. I'm not going to go into detail, but she made it easier for the rich to keep money. So I think that's why they talk about, it's a great country because of that.
Yeah.
Because Uncle Nasser earns so much.
Yeah, he's got like a monopoly.
He gets to keep more of his money, which is like the opposite of how we usually run.
Yeah.
It's like you usually get taxed more for being richer, when Margaret Thatcher was trying to lower it. Which I think it was one of the first films that openly criticised her.
Yeah.
Because it is technically criticism with what they're saying, because they're
still
trying to show what it's like. Like, it mentions her. It talks a lot about the working class, because Johnny is like proper working class British at the time, as well as he's like trying to find out who he is, because he's like a hooligan.
Yeah, essentially.
Like the first part of the film, but he's also gay.
Yeah, it's a weird sort of. I'm trying to think of the right word for it. It's a weird combination of the two, especially given that it's in the 80s, and the way it's put across is it Johnny's very atypical, even amongst the hooligans. He's the one who calls off the initial harassing of Omar and Salim, and I can't remember his wife's name, in the car in the first part of the film. And even throughout the rest of it, he shows a little bit more tolerance towards the Pakistani immigrants within the area, even though the rest of the working class guys are very much against them. Even though there is that point in the film where he was marched through Lewisham to talk about.
Yeah, he was
chanting immigrants out, immigrants out.
Because he was part of the British Union of Fascists, not
the
one in
actually.
The 40s.
Yeah,
like when England was having immigration issues. Through the entire century, really. It was him, doing things like that, and it does, because his father still talks to him. Omar's father comes and talks to Johnny.
Yeah, he does,
because he said he used to help him a lot, because I think he was a teacher.
He was
at least someone like all Omar's friends looked up to him.
He was very educated. They talked about him being a very prominent journalist with lots of friends back in Pakistan.
But I don't think he was a journalist in Britain, because he had very left-wing ideas, which in the 80s and kind of 70s really weren't.
There was a lot talked about with Omar's father. I didn't pick up on a lot of it. From the way it looked, it seemed that Omar's father was this very much, I don't know, more seen as, I guess, someone who could do very well and someone who was very well educated and very professional at a time, but sort of fell off when they moved to the UK to try and seek better prospects, and he wasn't met with the same sort of enthusiasm.
It seemed like the opposite. It seemed like Omar's father was like really well off in Pakistan, but they needed to leave to like
they want to leave to pursue
bigger prospects. But his brother was less successful in Pakistan, but when they moved to Britain, made all this money because he figured out how to like work the system.
It's almost like I've put a couple of times when they go around Uncle Nasser's house, it very much feels almost like this weird Pakistan mafia, because they're all sat around in his bedroom, passed around cigarettes and bottles and talking to each other. And it was a really funny thing to see. I found it quite interesting, actually.
I know, this is because there's not many things I picked up that I liked about the general film.
Yeah.
It is the messages, like the fact they were willing to show a gay couple.
Yeah,
on 80s film is massive, because I know like laws had already been passed to say it wasn't illegal anymore. And things
but
like
it definitely wasn't as widely accepted as it is
No, it
now.
wasn't as widely accepted as it used, and it's like it was mega considering this was made by like Channel 4.
Yeah, it was, wasn't
so, it? Like one of the biggest. It's a public service broadcaster, so they've got to show news and stuff as well. But you know, things like that. It's very, especially as because it's not graphic, but there is a sex scene technically between Johnny and Omar, which would be seen as very taboo, really, to show.
Taboo, but yeah.
It is, because it's becoming to be more widely accepted, and you see things like hippies and stuff rising, you know, sexual freedom. And this is the decade where it starts to like become more open.
Yeah, things start to change.
But that is what I like the film about. There isn't too many other things that I can really say. It's like what the film is trying to tell you is really good. It's a very good commentary on British society at the time.
I'd agree, definitely.
But if we move on to like the dislikes, it's just the content, it's not good, I think.
One of my main things is the acting feels really wooden throughout all of it.
I don't think Johnny is too bad.
Johnny's not bad.
And a lot of the older characters are quite good.
But Omar's
awful.
He's
awful.
It felt really... The sort of happy puppy thing he had going on whenever he saw Johnny, it kind of messed with me. I understand that the two are lovers, but the constant contrast in Omar's acting throughout the film, not even its character development and him changing as a person, because of how much the film flicks around as well.
It's like I found him
doesn't feel very coherent at all.
I found Omar like so stupid that I couldn't root for him, because it wasn't like he had flaws that he overcame.
No,
it was like every time he got beaten up for like stealing something, or like doing something he wasn't told, and then the next minute he wanted to do the same thing, and he's like, you realize like these people are very, I mean, to be honest, at the end it shows Salim isn't as dangerous as he thinks he is, when he gets beaten up by all the hooligans,
but he's shown to be a guy who's involved in smuggling drugs in this
exactly,
and whatever the tapes were, which wasn't explicitly said that he smuggles
like I put the pacing of the film, it's just there isn't,
it's all over the place.
It's just there's nothing kind of anchoring it. It seems to jump very quickly to what it's doing without any explanation.
Especially
it's
in the
like
first
they start doing up the laundrette, and you really can't. You've only been kind of. He's only really said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to give him the money to do up the laundrette."
You've not seen much of it.
What? I feel like I've missed chunks of the film every time it cuts to something else.
It does. It feels very much that they filmed loads and cut a lot of it out. Almost. It feels like there was a bridge there at some point, but it just wasn't put in the final edit, which is kind of strange. I also find it kind of weird how his cousin, I think her name was Tanya, was constantly trying to have sex with Omar.
Well, no, they were supposed to get married, and I know, like, the legal sense, I think it is still illegal, because I think it's like your second cousin or something is when it starts going to more of a grey area. But that's his, like, if that's his dad's, dad's brother's daughter, that's his cousin.
It felt very strange.
It felt very weird.
It might possibly be a cultural thing. I don't know very much.
Well, that's what I said to you the other day.
Yeah, we talked about it.
I was like, it must, because arranged marriages and then trying to keep your family name together was quite a big thing. But
it felt very strange.
Yeah, it does seem very strange to be doing it.
Very weird point, really.
I mean, I quite liked the character of Tanya.
She wasn't. She was an interesting. I think
she probably posed the most interest because she wanted to get away.
Yeah,
like her father was showing her all these riches and stuff, and she was like, "But I don't."
She wanted to make.
You're not being a good father.
Yeah, I think her character was good. Just the way it was used wasn't necessarily the best.
I disliked how, like, I'm saying like a lot again.
Yeah.
How she ended in the film, So she stood on the platform
she
of the
magically
train
disappears.
and she just disappears. And I don't mind that in films, but it wasn't like because both characters, Uncle Nasser and Omar's father, saw her.
Yeah.
And then they saw her disappear. They didn't have a joint hallucination.
No.
I don't like that effect when it's not being used
And
for like a
platform.
flashback, or if it was one character, you could have put it down as like a hallucination.
True.
Or them seeing something, but no.
They both see her.
The film's adapted from a book. I'm
Is it
fairly
actually?
sure.
I didn't realise that.
And in the book, it's very specific about that she moved to a different city.
Yeah.
But in this, it feels like she died because it feels like she walked on the track and got hit by a train.
That's true. I didn't think about it that way.
Like I thought when I watched it, I was like, has she just killed herself? Because it talks about Omar's mother. I think it was.
Yeah, she does.
Killed
She
herself
jumps
on them train tracks.
After
Has Tanya done the same thing? But
Yeah,
then
I didn't
I don't
think
think
about
she has because the uncle isn't like screaming,
no,
or like running to the train tracks or anything, and the father just kind of like takes it in his stride.
yeah.
I feel like it's trying to say that she left, but also I don't like the effect because they're both looking at her.
It's a bit weird.
It doesn't work that they
dunno.
both see her.
Well, that entire last scene was probably one of the better ones where it's just the Uncle Nasser finally goes to see his brother.
Yeah, I
Omar's
like
father.
that scene.
That was really
going
good.
to see him, and he's realizing that it's when because obviously his mistress has
Rachel. Yeah,
his mistress has decided to leave him because that's another thing it grazed over really quickly.
Yeah.
Uncle Nasser's wife like poisoned her or something.
Bilquis or something. Yeah, that was quite funny. I didn't quite understand what the point was.
I saw it in the wife's eyes, like
Yeah.
when she's realised that he had a mistress. Like she looked at him and it was focusing on her. It was like, oh, she's gonna do something here. But like it just told us that she did it. Like there was a scene where it was like, oh no, she's given Thingy a potion, and because of how it's so fast paced it is, and trying to just cut through all the scenes, and try to keep it on Omar, I'm like, what's they done?
There is a scene where she goes to put a rat in a mortar and pestle and start grinding up to create a potion, but then Nasser interrupts her. You do see a little bit of it, but it's a very strange plot point. But you know,
I know it feels like a bit out of place for what it is.
It did. It was strange. I did like going back to when the two meet. There's the talk between Nasser and Omar's father, where they're both sort of discussing how life's moved on, and Nasser says that the country Pakistan has been sodomized by religion, and it gets in the way of making money. And it kind of feels like it's the whole thing of globalization ruining areas, because there's this mentality of the people there that their own religious ways and their culture is holding them back from adapting to the modern world, which might not always, for all change is a necessary thing. Letting go of what makes a people unique in their history is kind of it showed that the mentality of some people that they feel a need that they have to distance themselves from their own heritage just to become more rich and more affluent, which was kind of a sad point in the film. But it links the whole thing that Nasser accumulates all this wealth and riches but doesn't ultimately feel fulfilled by it in the end.
Yeah, and I feel like the motivations of the film are a bit skewed.
Yeah,
because Uncle Nasser, he reluctantly, by the sounds of it, gives him a job washing cars.
It does, yeah.
Because his father rings him and he's like, "Oh no, give him a job, please."
He's
know.
almost like
but then,
bartering
like
with him.
after like what seems like an hour of work, he's like,
like,
"Oh, do you want to host this laundrette for me?"
He's like, "Yeah, I think of you like a son. You know, you're my favorite."
It sounded like he hadn't had contact with him in years,
Yeah,
and then like
it
he
did,
goes
didn't it?
over to him.
Then all of a sudden, the best friends.
Because they're living in this dingy looking flat, and the rest of his family are living in this massive mansion.
Wraparound
the really
drive,
you know, the high end apartment that Salim lives in.
Yeah, true. And
Like,
then
why you'd think if there's such a big family living in that house as well, because it's not just his, it's like his grandma or whatever as well, and their kids and his
extended
brother's
family
kids
too.
are all living in this same house.
So why was that distance there?
Why is because they don't? It doesn't seem like the brothers have become distant with each other. Because he asked him for a job, he knows he's there.
Yeah.
I also the thing about the dad.
Yeah.
He seemed to be bedridden, but then not. Like
I couldn't quite.
I couldn't tell how old he was because he moved around on one of the scenes and was like,
he
fine.
does look quite old. I think from the way it was shown, he was kind of like he's more bedridden out of
like
sort of mental and depression things because he's shown to be an alcoholic.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It also talks about how the reason for Omar's mother and his wife killing herself was that he beat her quite often.
Yeah,
which it was kind of hard to tell and it wasn't really explored, so we don't know. But it seems as though sort of his dad felt remorse maybe and fell into depression because of his wife killing herself because of what he did. But again, it never explicitly says a lot of this sort of stuff. But then it kind of feels wrong to assume at the same time. It's one of those situations where you don't know, and you're not given a good idea or enough information to assume what's going on in the film, which makes it kind of hard to do any of this.
You think Omar's like 18.
Yeah.
Because his father says you've got to go off to college in the autumn. But, I mean, college age now is 16 to 18 if you go, like, linear through and you don't skip any years or you don't swap. So I really don't... It was really hard to grasp, like, who I'm looking at.
Yeah, Omar's age wasn't very...
Because Johnny seems a lot older than him.
He does actually.
Like, when he talks to him, but he says they were childhood friends, like, in the same year at school. But
it's very weird.
Johnny seems like he'd be at least, like, 20.
He does look much older than Omar does. He could actually be the actor thing, to be fair.
I think it's not... I can't really think of much else to say because
that's about it.
It was like the message it was giving, I thought was really good, really progressive for the time. You know, pretty much the entire cast, like the majority of the cast even, is like Pakistani.
Yeah. Interestingly, actually, I did see this, that very few of the actual cast were born in Pakistan. I think it was only maybe it was someone on the production team, maybe the director or writer was actually from Pakistan. So a lot of the stuff was informed from this particular person on the team, and which was quite an interesting thing because it did feel, obviously we're speaking here not being Pakistan or having an experience either of us, but it didn't feel very what's the word I'm thinking of here? It seemed very realistic. It didn't seem like they'd really over exaggerated. It seemed fairly
it seemed
realistic,
like it was true.
Yeah. I guess now it's just looking at the what have you given as your rating for My Beautiful Laundrette?
This was really hard for me to figure out because I really did I understood what they were trying to go for, but didn't really like what I was watching. It did feel like there was good moments in it, but then the rest of it was kind of shot out and just be like, oh, this happens.
I definitely agree there.
So I gave it a 4.5 as my rating. Because
you know what?
No one can see this. Alfie's smirking right now. I feel like he's giving it a much lower rating.
No. Funnily enough, I've also given it a 4.5.
4.5.
For the exact same reasons that...
Wait, that means it's a 4.5.
It is a 4.5. That works out nicely.
I was going to go work it out there, no? So,
yeah,
My Beautiful Laundrette from 1995 is a 4.5. That's...
Nice message, just not done awfully well.
I think it's not the worst film we've done.
It might be. Remember. I think 5.2 was Blade Runner, or maybe Brazil.
Nah, because Brazil was pretty low. But that's pretty respectable, I think, for what we... I mean, it's not respectable, really, but...
Like I say, good message done kind of badly is the issue.
Yeah. Questions.
Jesus. Right.
We're back at the time again.
We are.
Who
Trivia.
Can win, if we can get any of them, because this film was bad.
Yeah, this film was really weird.
Would you like to ask the first question?
I will actually, yeah. So the soundtrack of My Beautiful Laundrette was quite an interesting one. So is it true or false that Hans Zimmer actually produced the original soundtrack?
What was the year that 1985?
1985.
False.
It's true.
What?
Hans Zimmer produced the original soundtrack.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not true.
It is. According to my research, Hans Zimmer did actually produce the original soundtrack for My Beautiful Laundrette.
That's mental.
It is. I would never have guessed that. Wonders of Wikipedia.
Them bubble noises really pissed me off the entire time.
Yeah,
them bubble noises that came on every time the laundrette was talking about.
Very strange.
All right, then.
All right,
I'll hit you with an equally hard question.
Oh, God. Right.
Daniel Day-Lewis was not the first choice for Johnny.
Shit. Yes.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. I read this as well.
Oh, I don't want to give you the options now. It's an options question.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
I've got... This is an options question.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Was it A, Gary Oldman, B, Tim Roth, or C, Kenneth Branagh?
Maybe I don't recognise any of them.
So who was the first choice? It wasn't
the
Daniel
first
Day-Lewis.
choice. What were the options again?
A, Gary... Do you know who these people are, by the way?
No. I'm just going to guess.
A, Gary... I knew who these were. Gay.
Wow. Wow.
Very fitting for this. A, Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman. Right.
B, Tim Roth.
Tim Roth.
Or C, Kenneth Branagh.
Kenneth Branagh. I think I'll have to go with A.
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman.
That is correct.
Oh, maybe I had seen it somewhere.
Gary Oldman is who plays what's it called?
I don't know who he is.
Commissioner Gordon in the Dark Knight trilogy.
Oh,
and
I had
obviously other films, but
yeah.
Kenneth Branagh
that's quite cool.
pretty sure directed Belfast, the film that
Oh.
won some
I don't think I've seen that
awards.
either.
I haven't either, but I just know.
Fair enough.
Right then, I thought that was a good one. No, you got it. It's fine. Second question, please, Alfie.
My second question is now, so at the site of the laundrette in, I think it's Vauxhall, London, what now stands at the site of the laundrette? Is it either a block of flats, a takeaway, or a supermarket?
I feel like it won't be a block of flats because they've had it done the whole street up. It's not a
There is a
supermarket.
40-year time gap here as well.
Yeah, there is a 40.
Yeah, so it could be.
I'm gonna go a takeaway.
You would be right as well.
Yes.
There is also a little, this is interesting, there's a rainbow plaque on the street outside marking the site of My Beautiful Laundrette as a significance because of its, representation of LGBTQ themes at a time where it was very uncommon.
Yeah,
really.
I thought it must have been too small to do anything else with it.
Yeah.
Takeaway.
Block of Flats was a bad one. I should have put something else.
Yeah, because the whole street was low-lying. So.
True.
All right then, second question for you.
Yeah.
What was Omar's father's job back in Pakistan?
Fairly certain he was a journalist.
Correct.
Nice.
I thought these questions were going to be quite hard, but as we've talked about them, it's like,
Yeah.
Alfie's talked about half my answers.
The things
in
have come up
dislikes and
here.
dislikes. And
Right.
the last question. What have I got? I've got one so
One.
far.
Okay.
1 out of 3. Okay.
So, Daniel Day-Lewis, this is regards to being one of his big things, really, isn't it? One of his major things. So, which of these movies I'm about to list, as well as obviously My Beautiful Laundrette, were one of the films that put Daniel Day-Lewis on the map? Was it? These are all films he's been in, by the way. It's not like me making things up. Was it The Bounty, A Room with a View, or Stars and Bars?
A Room with a View.
A Room with a View.
Because it came out the same year, didn't it?
It did.
Yes.
It actually released at the exact same time
Yes,
in New York.
New York, yeah.
Which is why critics claimed him being for such an amazing actor because he played two very, very different roles.
Oh, I'm glad
in the
now.
two.
I got 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3, yeah?
Right then, Alfie. You've so far got 2 out of 2.
Ooh.
So let's see if you can get the last one, which you will.
Let's hope. Let's hope.
3.
Yep.
What is the name of Uncle Nasser's mistress?
Oh.
Please tell
It
me
is.
you're dying to...
It is. No, it's Rachel.
Correct, it's Rachel.
Fantastic. Another
oh my
a
God,
clean
I've
sweep.
done awful.
A clean sweep.
I mean, not awful. I got 2
You got
right.
2 out of 3.
but
And to be
still.
fair, what was my first one again? It was the Hans Zimmer, which is very... You wouldn't have really
I
guessed that,
don't-
really, would you?
Hans Zimmer. I still don't believe it.
According to Wikipedia, the Wikipedia
Oh.
source could be wrong,
Oh.
but I didn't feel like delving into actual, asking Hans Zimmer himself, you know?
I mean, gotta call them up.
Yeah, obviously.
Gotta call them up, Alfie. So, how relevant do you think it is today?
I'd honestly say that it's probably one of the more relevant films we've actually watched. I think
Yeah.
its representation of LGBTQ themes for 1985 was not really any seen before, from what I know, and the sort of how the issues of race and class were approached with the film were really well done, I thought. But like you said,
It's
the
probably
methods.
one of the least known we've done.
I'd say
Because
so.
it
Yeah,
really
so
wasn't
far.
that mainstream,
Mm.
but it's the most culturally important.
Yeah, I'd say
It's
so.
really we've watching it. I was like, you know what, this has some really good messages in it for 1980s. Really need to be said, but it just doesn't get the attention.
Yeah,
And that probably partly because it is an independent film, technically.
true.
Because it's Channel 4 Productions. It's not some big Hollywood studio. But it's just not good.
Yeah,
The
it
content
gets
within
let
it
down.
doesn't really assist with the big message it gives.
Yeah, I definitely.
I
agree
mean,
with
we've
that.
talked about this, but I think it's one of the most important films to do with things like LGBTQ
Yeah,
rights.
it's very significant. I'd say in that. In that
yeah, and
regard.
then immigration and things.
Yeah, it covers a lot of really really important themes and covers them fairly well. Just the overall film itself felt very lacking, really. You know.
Yeah, that's very true. And that's another episode done.
Yes, episode 5.
Episode 5 on My Beautiful Laundrette.
Yeah,
Definitely it's the first independent film we've done.
it is actually.
It's
Isn't it?
it's a very much smaller film, $650,000 budget.
Yeah.
It still made money, 2.4 million. I
Great
think.
way to tack that enough to forget it.
Shut up, Afton. directed by who someone I've forgotten.
Yeah, but I think it's definitely the most, as we just said in the relevant section, it's one of the most significant films we've covered, if not the most so far.
Thank you for listening to this week's podcast. Follow us on all the social medias.
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook,
at
TikTok.
the 80s Cinema Club.
The 80s Cinema Club.
We'd love it if you could message us with film ideas.
Yeah, that'd be really appreciated.
If you want to be in the podcast, come on and talk to us about a film you like.
Yeah.
We want to book these in, so we've got things to do.
Coming up, but anyone who would like to come on.
Anyone who'd like to come on, we can make time. That's it, really. We appreciate everybody listening, and goodbye.